The Harmattan sky threatened all morning, a quilt of slate that pressed low over Agbon village. Yet the moment Mama Iridi tied the last coral bead around Zara's neck, the first raindrops slapped the palm frond roof and drums boomed in welcome, as if the ancestors themselves approved the union. Undeterred, Zara lifted her satin hem and stepped into the courtyard where friends gathered beneath bright umbrellas fashioned from banana leaves. She was radiant in crimson osso oak, a single white hibiscus tucked behind her ear. Rain on a wedding day means decades of blessings, Mama Iridi whispered, squeezing her granddaughter's trembling fingers. Zara laughed. Or a muddy dress. Across the yard Tund swaggered in a cobalted bodice stitched with gold thread he could barely afford, eyes shining brighter than the brass anklets on the praise singers. When the priest announced, "You are husband and wife," thunder rumbled like distant cannon fire. During the feast the rain intensified, cascading from thatch eaves and silver curtains. Zara and Tund huddled beneath the festive canopy while village children shrieked with delight, chasing paper boats through newborn streams. "Let us leave tonight," Tund murmured, leaning close so only she could hear. "There is talk of a trade route loaded with gold dust farther north. I will bring fortunes home before the next harvest. Imagine, you'll never work those healing gardens again." Zara's smile faltered. "My work is not a burden, Tund. Healing is my calling. But wealth is power." His eyes glinted like a whetstone. "I want to give you the world." Mama Iridi's cane thudded beside them. "The world is heavy, my son. Carry only what your conscience can bear." Tund lifted a cup in toast. "Old mother, conscience will eat when hunger comes? I will build a house so large you lose your way inside." Laughter erupted, but Zara caught a flash of worry in Mama Iridi's eyes. Outside, lightning clawed the sky, a ragged signature across the clouds as if warning names just written in the book of fate. 3 moons later Zara woke alone. Tund's side of the raffia mat was cold, the scent of his sandalwood oil already gone. By the doorway lay a note scrawled hastily, "Gone to find gold. Trust me. Love, T." She sighed, pressing the curling paper to her chest. The village market was stirring, bleating goats, women bargaining over baskets of yams. Zara pushed aside disappointment, ground fresh shea leaves, and set out for the healer's hut. Mid-morning, a rider in dusty linen galloped through the square, shouting the price of salt in the northern cities. Men crowded him with questions, children chased the horse's tail. Zara peered over shoulders until she heard familiar laughter, Tund's voice rising above the din, promising partnership, brokering deals like a man twice his age. "Tund," she called. He turned, face flushed with excitement. "Zara, perfect timing. I leave at dawn. Kola nuts, dyes, woven cloth, it will all fetch triple in Kotigra. With profits I'll buy a herd of cattle and 6 sacks of rice." She tucked a braid behind her ear. "Will you remember to buy medicine for the old merchant's coughing wife?" "Medicine?" He blinked, distracted. Yes, of course." He kissed her cheek and darted back to the trader's circle. Mama Iridi approached, balancing a calabash of millet. "Ambition is a wild horse," she murmured. "Hold the reins or be dragged." Zara watched her husband's eager gestures. "He wants more for us." "Then let him find more," Mama Iridi conceded. "But never let him lose himself finding it." That night the newlyweds sat beneath an irako tree, fireflies stitching gold light between them. "Promise you'll return before the mangoes ripen," Zara said. Tund clasped her hands. "I promise, my moonflower. Distance cannot dim this love." Yet as dawn bled orange across the horizon, Zara felt the tree's roots clutch the earth, sensing change, while Tund's silhouette grew smaller along the red dirt road, drawn toward horizons where love might weigh less than gold dust swirling in the wind. With Tund gone, Zara poured her longing into service. Each morning she brewed mint leaf infusions, bound wounds with silk cotton bark, and hummed incantations that danced on her breath. Villagers queued outside the hut, fishermen with infected nets cuts, mothers cradling feverish babies, elders seeking salves for aching joints. Your hands are blessed, old Papa Ade said as she massaged palm oil into his swollen knee. They are merely guided, Zara replied, glancing at the framed herb chart Tend had bought her last market day, a small reminder of his faith in her craft. One afternoon a messenger arrived. A merchant caravan bound south had been ambushed by bandits. Survivors limped toward Agbon. Zara sprinted to the outskirts where bodies lay in makeshift stretchers. She knelt beside a teenage girl, lips pale, arrow lodged in her shoulder. Bite this, Zara urged, slipping leather between the girl's teeth. With steady fingers she snapped the shaft, slid the arrowhead free, then pressed a poultice of crushed guava leaves and charcoal. The girls screamed toward the air, and suddenly a hush fell as blood slowed beneath Zara's sure grip. Mama Iridi watched, pride shining. Your mother would dance in the spirit realm at this sight. That evening, exhausted, Zara penned a letter to Tend. The village thrives. I miss you. Remember who you are. She sealed it with wax scented of lemongrass, her hope bottled in fragrance. But weeks stretched into months. Letters returned sporadically, brief, hurried lines about profits and possibilities, never signed with the endearments she cherished. Rumors drifted in that Tend dined in wealthy halls, that his Igbata now sparkled with real gold threads. F, newly arrived from the coastal academy, found Zara pruning neem branches in the garden. You shine brighter than city lights, he teased. She laughed softly. And you still speak in riddles, F. His smile wavered. I heard Tend's name in Lekki. They say he travels with a widow of great fortune. Zara's shears paused midair. Stories grow taller than the storytellers. Perhaps. But if ever you need a friend, my feet are planted here. Night fell with a hush, yet Zara lay awake listening to the forest, heart drumming like distant masquerade drums, echoes of truths she dared not voice. Kotigra city simmered under a copper sunset when Tend first set eyes on Kemi. She descended from an ivory palanquin, silk gilly rising like a crown, diamonds speckling her wrists. The crowd parted, rich men bowed, poor ones gawked, yet her gaze settled on the young trader whose would outshone his worn sandals. You barter words as if they are coins, she said, voice smooth as palm wine. I could use a man who knows the price of everything. Tend's pulse hammered. And what might such a man gain in your service, madam? She smiled, revealing a dimple shaped like a secret. Comfort beyond counting. Perhaps even a throne of your own. That night in her marble courtyard, peacocks strutted while musicians played soft choir melodies. Kemi poured Tend spiced tea. Tell me of your wife, she purred. He hesitated. Zara is special. A healer. A village girl? She arched a brow. Charm fades with hunger. Stay with me, and hunger will never know your name. Tend imagined Zara's mud brick hut, the smell of medicinal smoke clinging to her braids. He pictured a mansion instead, walls draped in silk, and his name etched in silver above great iron gates. Kemi leaned in, voice a velvet snare. The path to power is paved with decisive steps. Leave the dust behind. Outside, a servant unfurled scrolls of trade contracts. Tend's signature could turn paper into gold. His hand trembled, not from doubt but from desire. He signed. Thunder rolled in the distance, though the sky above Kotigra was clear. Back in Agbon, the rainy season returned fiercer than before. One evening Zara escorted a feverish toddler home when the forested hillside groaned like a waking beast. She froze, clutching the child as boulders peeled from the slope, earth liquefying beneath torrents of rain. Move, villagers shouted, scrambling for higher ground. A lone boy, no more than 6, stood rooted in the landslide's path, eyes round with terror. Zara thrust the toddler into Mama Iridi's arms and sprinted. Mud sucked at her ankles, jagged rocks ricocheted around her. She reached the boy, scooped him up, and pivoted, just as a slab of granite crashed, sending them tumbling. Pain exploded in her legs, white-hot, blinding. She felt bones snap like dry cassava stalks. Still she shielded the child, rolling until they slammed against an uprooted tree. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of rain. Villagers waded through muck, dragging bodies to safety. When they found Zara, she was conscious, lips parted but voiceless, eyes blazing determined fire while blood mixed with the trembling earth. F knelt beside her, tears mingling with rain. "Stay with us, Zara. We are here." She managed a hoarse whisper. "The boy, is he safe?" "He lives because of you," Mama Iridi sobbed, clutching her granddaughter's hand. But when the healer from the neighboring town examined Zara beneath flickering lantern light, his verdict fell like an axe. Both legs shattered. Even if they mend, she may never walk unaided. News traveled faster than the swollen river. In Kotigra, Tund received a messenger's note. He read it once, twice, and poured another cup of palm wine. Kemi reclined on silk cushions, watching. "Trouble from the village?" she asked. "My wife, an accident." Kemi's eyes narrowed. "Your future is here, Tund. Send money if it eases your conscience." He considered the letter again, then folded it into a neat square and set it aflame in a brass bowl. Ash drifted upward like black snow. At dawn, Tund visited Zara's hospital room for the first and last time. She lay pale but smiling at his arrival. "I knew you'd come," she murmured, reaching for his hand. But his grasp was limp, eyes already on the doorway. When the doctor explained the extent of her injuries, Tund's shoulders stiffened. He cleared his throat, muttered, "I will make arrangements," and walked into the corridor flooded with morning light. Zara waited, heartbeat echoing in the sterile silence. Footsteps faded. They never returned. Outside, a rain-washed sun rose above distant hills, indifferent witness to vows broken and destinies rewritten. Yet in Zara's chest, amid shattered bones and jagged sorrow, a spark kindled, small, defiant, indestructible. A promise to herself: he may leave me crippled, but he will never leave me broken. A stinging smell of disinfectant lingered in the orthopedic ward of St. Raphael's Mission Hospital. Rain drummed on sheet metal roofing, a relentless percussion that matched Zara's pulse. Her legs were cocooned in plaster up to the thigh, hoisted by ropes and pulleys like two pale flags of surrender. When the ward door screeched open, she expected Mama Iridi with the next bowl of pepper soup. Instead, Tund strode in wearing an imported blazer and perfume that smelled of coastal lilies. For an instant Zara's pain blurred. Here, at last, was her anchor. "Tund," she breathed, eyes gleaming. He nodded without meeting her gaze, all taut jaw and restless fingers. The house officers stole glances at his designer wristwatch as he paced. "Tund," low voice, "Doctor, speak plainly. Will she walk?" "Dr. Ocone, the fractures are compound and bilateral. Months in traction, then steel braces, then physiotherapy. With luck she'll manage a cane." "Tund, a cane." He turned to Zara with a brittle smile. She held out her hand. He clasped it for only a heartbeat before letting it slide from his fingers. "Zara, hoarse, hopeful, I dreamed you built us a porch where our children could chase fireflies." Tund, forcing levity, "Dreams change, Zara. Rest, heal. I'll handle things." When Mama Iridi arrived, carrying a gourd of Agbo herbal tonic, she found only Zara's tear-streaked face and a vacant chair. The tonic splashed as the old woman set it down. "Mama Iridi, did the storm bring him or take him away?" "Zara, whisper both, grandmother." "Both." Outside, Tund climbed into a waiting Peugeot hired from Kemi's fleet. The driver asked whether he would like to return to the city. Tund answered by slamming the door, rainwater flicking from his cufflinks like tiny shards of silver remorse. Word travels in villages the way smoke curls through rafters. By the next market day, everybody knew Tund had vanished to arrange specialist care, yet none had seen his shadow since dawn. Beside Zara's sickbed, unanswered letters piled like fallen leaves, hospital bills, prayers from villagers, receipts for metal pins. F became courier and sentinel. Each evening he read Zara news from the outside world, how her medicinal garden now sprouted weeds, how the chief's twin sons recovered because of her last tincture, how Tun's name had been cited on guest lists in Warri, Benin, Lagos, always beside the widowed Madame Kemi Adesina. He was photographed at the Emerald Ball, Zara. Tailcoat, champagne flute, smile wide as the lagoon. Zara, voice steady, then let him toast his fortune. Mine is here. Still, nights were cruel. When morphine thinned, pain poured in. One madrugada, she begged Mama Iridi for truth. Zara, if I never walk again, will the world still need me? Mama Iridi, softly child, a river does not cease to be a river because a bridge collapses. It finds a new course. So the old woman brewed resilience, she crushed bitter cola for circulation, pounded tiger nuts for bone strength, and recited folktales until dawn. Yet every story ended the same, heroes maimed but not unmended, villains triumphant only for a season. Meanwhile, in Kemi's marble compound, Tund lounged by a fountain, draped in silk. But his laughs came too quickly, his sleep too light. Kemi noted the tremor in his left hand when Zara's name surfaced. Kemi, coolie ghosts are for midnight, my dear. Daylight should concern itself with power. Tund, forcing a grin, then let daylight blind them all. But as he sipped another imported spirit, the glass felt heavier, the liquid sour. 3 months after the landslide, traction pins were removed. Muscle had withered, but Zara's spirit bristled. She insisted on being wheeled outside to watch sunrise filter through baobab branches. She inhaled dawn like medicine. One morning she surprised the nurses. Instead of waiting for the orderly, she slithered from the chair, dragging herself across tiled corridors, nails scratching the grout. Sweat streamed, but her jaw locked in grim resolve. Nurse Ada, shocked Sister Zara. You'll reopen the fractures. Zara, panting, then they will heal stronger. News of her defiance rippled through the ward. Soon other patients attempted extra steps, inspired by the broken healer who refused her own prognosis. The physiotherapist, Mr. Mensah, arrived with parallel bars and a wry smile. Mr. Mensah, they say you are too stubborn for science. Let us test folklore against physics, eh? Day by day, Zara's arms quaked less, her grip steadied. Mama Iridi massaged her calves with shea butter steeped in pepper leaf, recited counting rhymes to pace her efforts. When pain spiked, she closed her eyes and pictured rain on wedding day hibiscus, reminding herself storms could bless as well as drown. One dusky evening she wheeled to the hospital garden and touched soil. I am still a healer, she murmured, burying seeds of lemongrass, mint, and bitter leaf in a wooden box the gardener offered. She named the box Hope Plot. Each shoot that sprouted felt like sinew regrowing in her own legs. Recovery is cruelly cyclical, 2 steps forward, 1 step crumbling back. On a humid night thick with crickets, fever seized Zara. In delirium she drifted to the past, Tund's courtship under lantern glow, his oath spoken beside the yam barn, may lightning strike me if ever I leave your side. She jolted awake, sobbing. Mama Iridi dabbed her forehead while read aloud a parable of Anansi the spider, who spun lies and found himself tangled. Softly some webs glitter in sunlight, but rainfall reveals the emptiness between threads. Zara turned her head, the pillow damp. Zara, he was not always hollow, I saw gold in him once, real gold, not the dust he chases. Voice cracking, sometimes gold is just polished grief, Zara. The next morning, she asked the nurse for stationery. With painstaking strokes she drafted a letter. My husband. I release you. The vows you buried now sprout thorns in my flesh. Do not write back. No longer ignite hope with sparks you do not intend to tend. She folded the page, but instead of sending it she set it afire in the courtyard brazier, watching flame curl over ink. She was not writing to him, she realized, she was writing to the part of herself that still knelt before his absence. Ash at last drifted free on an updraft, like her. The hospital discharged her into Mama Iridi's adobe cottage overlooking cassava fields. Steel braces locked round her shins, polished wood crutches weighted by the mat. Chickens scattered as she hobbled across packed earth for the first time, each motion a lightning strike of agony and ecstasy because she was upright. Villagers lined the footpath, ululating like it was festival day. Little Jide, the boy she'd shielded, ran forward clutching a clay toy he had carved, a woman standing tall with roots for feet. Zara knelt, to accept it, tears smearing dust on her cheeks. Physiotherapy relocated to her courtyard. Mr. Mensah visited weekly. Between sessions Mama Iridi drilled her with chores disguised as exercise, stirring thick OG porridge, arm strength, winnowing beans, balance, pounding yam, core stability. Zara grumbled but complied, sweat beading on her collarbone like prayer beads. One dawn 2 moons later, she woke before cockcrow, daring to try without crutches. The cottage still slept. She placed palms on the table, shifted weight, left leg, right leg, release. Wobble. Stand. A gasp escaped her lips, almost loud enough to wake the village dogs. 3, 4 trembling steps carried her to the window. Outside, eastern clouds blushed rose and gold. She pressed her forehead to cool clay and whispered, "Thank you, bones, for mending. Thank you, spirit, for refusing to snap." At the next village harvest festival she arrived leaning on a beautifully carved staff F had fashioned from Irako wood. Drummers fell silent. Zara adjusted her wrapper, squared her shoulders, and, letting the staff hover a fraction above the earth, walked the final 10 paces unaided across the square. A roar rose, louder than the talking drums. Children shouted her name, elders stamped their feet. Zara's chest burned not with pain but with incandescent triumph. High on the reviewing platform, the Oba's eldest wife led the women in a chant. Women, in unison a tree may bend, but it does not break. A river may flood, but it carves new earth. Zara bowed, tears bright in the torchlight. Somewhere beyond the hills, perhaps, 10 nursed wine and regret, but here, in the pulsing heart of Agbon, Zara the healer reclaimed her name, her stride, and her story. Long before the village cockerels crowed, a single lamp bobbed along the red earth road that led to Agbon, the carriage lantern of a cocoa-brown Morris truck, its engine wheezing like an asthmatic bullfrog. Behind the wheel sat Efik Hanum, freshly arrived from medical studies in Accra and heavy with secrets. He had not slept the entire journey, every mile felt like a drumbeat urging him toward one face, one name, Zara. He found her at dawn on the veranda, exercising with a polished Irako staff while dew glittered on cassava leaves. In the golden haze she looked every inch a warrior priestess, calves quivering but eyes ablaze. F's voice surprised them both when it broke the silence. F, softly, you never told me the sun rose through your ribcage. Zara, smiling, breathless, and you never told me you'd trade a white coat for poetry. They embraced, awkward because of braces and crutches, but lingering. When Mama Iridi emerged, tears smudged the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. Mama Iridi, F. My boy! Have you come to cure stubborn bones or stubborn hearts? F, bowing both, if the village will have me. Over a steaming breakfast of yam porridge, conversation turned serious. Letters F brought from the coastal newspapers detailed Ten's extravagant life, gambling in Wari casinos, posing on glossy society pages with Madame Kemi Adesina, head turned just so beneath her sapphire gelly. The article's headline glared, Widow Kemi and Rising Tycoon Celebrate New Freight Contract. Zara studied the photograph, noting how Ten's arm curved possessively around Kemi's waist, the same way it had once claimed her own. She set the paper down with a steady exhale. F, gently say the word and I will go drag him back by his snake-oiled tail. Zara, no, F. Let the city keep him, or swallow him. My work is here. Still, unspoken currents stirred between them. At the riverbank that evening, F knelt beside Zara as she soaked her aching legs. Crickets hummed, fireflies stitched green threads above the reeds. F, when we were children, you brewed potions for my scraped knees. Now let me be yourself. Zara, salves heal, they do not replace bone. I must finish growing my own strength first. F's sigh was half acceptance, half longing. He touched the scar that snaked down her shin, lightly, reverently, and vowed to wait. In his pocket lay a velvet pouch containing a plain silver ring. For now it would remain sealed, its circle unbroken but unread. Agbon's New Yam festival burst like fireworks across the horizon, crimson canopies, strings of kola nuts, dancers stomping dust into gold clouds. Drummers rolled thunder from stretched goatskin while grots sung of harvest and heroes. This year the elders insisted the celebration double as Zara's welcome home triumph. The healer who had once sewn their wounds would now showcase her own rebirth to the gods. At noon, Zara emerged from Mama Iridi's hut wearing a gown the color of dawn, soft coral that brightened her dark skin into polished mahogany. She rejected crutches, wielding only F's handcrafted staff, its shaft etched with Kaur patterns that symbolized perseverance. As she approached the village square, chatter faltered to hush. Children pointed, market women pressed palms to cheeks, elders leaned forward on walking sticks. Could she truly stand? The answer came in 6 deliberate steps up the reviewing platform. Each footfall struck the plank like a drumbeat of defiance. When Zara reached the top, she rested both palms atop her staff and let the hush swell. Then, instead of a speech, she began to dance, a slow, graceful swaying of shoulders and hips that celebrated every vertebra spared by the landslide. The crowd's silence fractured into wild ululation. Mid-dance, a booming baritone pierced the cheers. Village chief, Zara the healer, your spirit outruns the wind. Accept this title, Adanyaagbonwa, heart of our village. A beaded mantle was draped over her shoulders, heavy yet feather-light where it mattered. Tears hot as pepper stung her eyes. In the front row, F's applause struck faster than any talking drum. Just as musicians launched into a whirlwind rhythm, a courier on a motorbike skidded into the square, scattering goats. He delivered a telegram to the chief, who handed it to Zara with a puzzled brow. The paper read only, "Congratulations, my moonflower. May your new title comfort you in my absence. T." The ink smudged where raindrops, or perhaps regret, had kissed it. Zara folded the note once, twice, then let it fall into a basket of festival flames until only curling ash remained. She turned back to the dance, letting drums drown the memory. But F saw the moisture glinting on her lashes and silently wished for a thunderbolt to strike an unfaithful husband wherever he hid. 500 miles away, Tund Iadil stood in the foyer of Kemi's mansion, suitcase in hand, pride in tatters. The marble floor reflected his disheveled reflection, collar wilting, eyes rimmed red, gold watch missing after an unlucky dice game. Madame Kemi descended the spiral staircase like a verdict in silk. 2 uniformed guards flanked her, tall, impassive. "Kemi, icily when I took you in, you promised tenfold returns. Instead, you delivered debts." Tund, the shipping strike was unforeseen. "Kemi, vision sees beyond horizon. You saw only mirrors." She flicked a ledger at his feet, columns of red ink. He reached for it, a guard kicked it aside. "Kemi, voice soft, lethal, your name is worth less than the ink that stains those pages. My lawyers dissolve our partnership at noon. Security will escort you out." Tund's throat worked like a fish on sand. He had gambled Zara's love, gambled Kemi's trust, and lost both. Spat into Kotigra's neon night, he dragged his suitcase through puddles reflecting bright billboards that once welcomed him. On every street corner someone seemed to recognize him, a vendor he'd cheated, a courier he'd underpaid, a madam he'd promised repayment. Whispered insults tailed him like flies. A newspaper headline from a roadside stand caught his eye, "Village hero Zara walks again, festival honors miracle healer." The accompanying photograph showed Zara crowned in coral beads, smiling a smile that no longer needed him. For the first time in months, genuine tears pricked his eyes. Regret was a spear he could not dislodge. That night, sleepless in a cheap hostel room, Tund replayed every moment from raindrop wedding to hospital corridor. Dawn found him on a northbound lorry, empty wallet in pocket, one purpose carved into his mind: go home. Make amends. But shame is a long road, and forgiveness an uncertain destination. 8 dusty days later, the rooster hadn't yet crowed when Zara's dog began to bark. Mama Iridi cracked the hut door and saw a gaunt figure leaning on the compound gate, clothes crumpled, shoes split at the toes. Tund. Word spread like brushfire, the prodigal has returned. By the time the sun cleared the palm fronds, a throng ringed the compound, farmers with hoes, fisherwomen with paddles, youths gripping slingshots. Years of gratitude to Zara had fermented into fierce loyalty. Bald-headed Pa Ade broke rank first. Pa Ade, shouting you left her to rot while you danced with city devils. Village youth, stone him. Stones indeed sailed, thudding the mud wall near Tund's head. He didn't flinch, his eyes remained fixed on the doorway where Zara now stood, supporting herself on her staff. Dappled morning light painted her in gold, so vital it hurt to look. Tund, hoarse whispered Zara, forgive me. Zara lifted a hand, the mob froze, stones poised mid-throw. She advanced until only the gates separated them. Up close she smelled smoke, remnants of city nights spent in cheap bars, and something sourer, defeat. Zara, voice calm, resonant, I once begged the universe to bring you back. It has. Yet I feel nothing but wind in an empty gourd. Tund, I deserve every curse, but give me a chance to repent. Zara, repentance cannot grow in soil still poisoned by greed. A murmur of assent rippled through the crowd. Tund's shoulders sagged. Suddenly F stepped forward, fists clenched. F, if you loved her, you'd never have walked away. Now walk again, out of this village, and never darken her shadow. Tund's gaze flicked from F's steady stance to Zara's unwavering eyes, then to the villagers gripping their makeshift weapons. Understanding dawned, he was not simply unwanted, he was a trespasser in the kingdom he'd forsaken. With a shuddering breath, he backed down the path, stumbling as if the earth itself rejected him. When he was a speck on the horizon, Zara finally exhaled, shoulders slumping. F caught her before her legs gave way. Zara, whisper, why does relief ache like grief? F, because hope once lived where emptiness now settles. In time, new life will fill the space. Behind them the crowd dispersed, but whispers lingered, what judgment awaits a man the earth itself refuses? Night laid its velvet cloak over Agbon, pierced by a crescent moon that hung like a question mark. Zara sat before a clay brazier where incense curled skyward, carrying her unspoken prayers. Across from her knelt Mama Iridi, eyes closed, lips murmuring an ancestral hymn. Mama Iridi, child, forgiveness is a seed you plant for your own harvest, not for the offender's feast. Zara, then let me plant it, grandmother. But I will not water it with my future. Later, she and F took a lantern stroll to the edge of the yam fields. Frogs sang, distant flute notes drifted from a youth courting his love. Here, away from spectators, F finally spoke the words caged behind his ribs. F, voice trembling, I love you, Zara. Not from pity or hero worship, but from years of watching you turn pain into healing for others. Zara, F, your love is a balm, but I have not yet shed the last splinters of my past. She turned her gaze toward the forest path where Tund had vanished. Zara, that man carved a hollow in me. I will not pour you into it like filler. F, gently, I will wait until you carve a whole new vessel. Back home, Zara spent the small hours drafting plans by lamplight, sketches of a healing center, mud brick cottages, herb gardens, a training hall where abandoned women could learn both medicine and trade. The drawings felt like blueprints for her own reconstruction. At dawn, she pinned the parchment above her bed. Beneath it she placed Tund's last letter, now nothing but ashes kept in a tiny bottle. One relic of the past to remind her what had burned, one map of the future to guide what would bloom. Outside, village roosters heralded morning. Zara stepped onto the veranda without crutches, gripping only her staff. She looked east where the sky bled peach and lilac. Zara, to herself, today I choose soil, seed, and sunlight, not shadow. As if in answer, a cool breeze rustled through neem branches, scattering white blossoms at her feet, petals that once symbolized morning, now repurposed as confetti for the first day of the rest of her story. The harmattan dust hung low on the far side of Agbon's old market road the morning Zara decided to meet Tund one final time. Word had reached her that he slept beneath the half-collapsed veranda of the abandoned cocoa warehouse, eating whatever the fishermen at the riverside refused to sell. She rose before sunrise, bathed, and dressed in a simple indigo wrapper patterned with white cowries, symbols of both wealth and protection. F found her tightening the leather thong that held her staff. F, concerned your heart is almost healed. Do not let fresh wounds reopen. Zara, steady a wound hidden beneath cloth still festers. Today I clean it once for all. The warehouse crouched like a wounded beast at the edge of the river. Rusted zinc sheets clanged in the dry wind. Inside, Ten sat on a broken crate, clothes reduced to rags, beard wild as elephant grass. He looked up when Zara's shadow crossed the doorway, shame, relief, and fear fought for purchase in his eyes. Tund, voice cracking moonflower. Zara, firm, do not call me by names you buried. A stunned silence settled. Far away, a fisherman beat his paddle against the water to scare up tilapia, the hollow thuds echoed like a slow drum. Zara, I came to return what is yours. She placed a small goatskin pouch at his feet. When he loosened the string, coins glinted, every naira he once sent, every gift he had bought before greed eclipsed love. Tund, why torment me? I have nothing. Zara, exactly. Now you owe me nothing, and I owe you nothing. Only truth remains. She described the day's interaction, the night she begged the ceiling rafters for mercy, the agonizing first step. Tund wept openly, tears cut bright trails through the dust on his cheeks. Tund, I would trade my life to undo my betrayal. Zara, soft, resolute, but life is not a market. There are no exchanges here, only lessons. Learn yours. She turned to leave, but paused at the threshold. Zara, a last gift, that name you loved, Zara the moonflower, still blossoms, just not for you. When she stepped back into the light, the harmattan breeze felt cooler, as though passing through a door that had finally been shut. 3 planting moons later, spectators gathered beside Agbon's mango grove, marveling at what villagers now called Hope Haven, a crescent-shaped courtyard anchored by a thatch-roofed clinic, an herbarium, and 2 dormitories for abandoned women and widows. The walls glowed ochre against sky-blue shutters, hibiscus and aloe flanked the entry like vigilant soldiers. Zara stood at the gate, braces gone, staff exchanged for a carved leadership baton gifted by the chief. Mama Iridi beamed beside her. F adjusted a stethoscope around his neck, resident doctor of the new center. Village chief, pronouncing by the authority of our fathers and mothers, we declare Hope Haven open. Drums rattled, gourds shook, footsteps stomped. 3 widows, former quarry laborers with scarred backs and shy smiles, cut the palm fiber ribbon. Children scattered petals that smelled of lemongrass and possibility. Inside the training hall, Zara addressed the inaugural class, 17 women carrying stories of desertion, widowhood, or war. Zara, pain is a seed. If you bury it in bitterness, it sprouts poison. If you plant it in purpose, it becomes medicine for the world. Here we will learn how to turn grief into healing. She demonstrated how to identify fever grass, how to blend morina with shea butter, how to listen to a patient's silence as keenly as to their words. In the afternoons, F taught anatomy, using chalk sketches on rough-hewn boards. At dusk the compound pulsed with singing, women pounding Yemen rhythm, girls weaving raffia mats whose sales would fund antibiotics and textbooks. One night Zara sat alone in the herbarium, moonlight silvering jars of arnica and neem. She traced a finger along a label, strength tonic, and felt the universe wink. In this place every vial, every roof beam, every laughter line in the courtyard bricks was proof that broken bones could build whole worlds. Festival season returned, this time a celebration of millet. Under lanterns strung between mango trees, villagers danced in circles, bare feet beating dust into clouds. Zara wore a flowing gown the color of ripe papaya, F donned a tailored ash-gray danchiki. Mid-dance the drummers fell quiet. F took Zara's hand and guided her to the center of the ring. Firelight etched sharp shadows on his jaw. F, voice carrying, when we were children I promised to watch over the healer who watched over us. Today that promise asks new words. He knelt, the entire village holding its collective breath, and produced a plain woven silver ring, no gem, just a band strong enough to weather decades. F, Zara Anya, will you let me walk beside you under sun or storm? Gasps rustled through the onlookers. Mama Iridi pressed both hands over her mouth. Zara's pulse hammered in her ears. Zara, quiet but clear. You are light in a season when night tried to swallow me. But my heart is still grafting new roots. Give me time. Instead of disappointment, relief softened his features, as if respect for her journey outweighed desire for a swift answer. He rose, kissed her knuckles, and addressed the crowd. Wisdom says good cola nut is worth a patient chew. Laughter rippled, music resumed, and the moment transformed from cliffhanger to promise. Back at Hope Haven, he placed the ring inside a calabash labeled someday and left it in the herbarium. Every full moon he added a fresh blossom beside it, letting petals mark passing time like gentle hourglasses. South of Agbon, the colonial highway cut through savannah where scorching winds stole voices from travelers' throats. Along that road trudged a ragged figure pounding a battered talking drum, the only possession city gamblers had not seized. It was Tund. He discovered that villages westward had all heard the tale. Trickster who forsook the healer now seeks alms. In Idanra a woman spat at his feet, in Uromi boys pelted him with orange peels. Payment for food often came as a chore, scrubbing latrines, fetching some water, or playing his drum for a wrinkled chief who laughed at songs of lost glory. One twilight Tund reached a crossroad shrine and collapsed beneath the irako tree, body raw from sun, stomach growling. He beat the drum with trembling palms, singing the lullaby Zara once taught him, ashes to soil, soil to seed. His voice cracked, but he kept singing until tears blurred the stars. At dawn a passing caravan master paused. Caravan master, your drum mourns things long dead. Tund, hoarse, it mourns the man I once was. The master tossed him a crust of millet bread and moved on. Tund looked at the bread, then at the drum, and realized karma had finished its symphony. The last note was loneliness. News of his pitiful wanderings finally drifted to Agbon. Found Zara pruning basil shoots. He wanders like a shadow with no body. Some urge we fetch him. Zara, shaking her head, compassion is not the same as rescue. The lesson belongs to him. If we steal it, we steal his only chance to grow. That night she stirred honey into a cup of bitter bark tea, whispering a quiet prayer, not for reconciliation, but for illumination. Somewhere beyond the horizon a starving man lifted a drum toward the rising sun, and light cut through the drumskin hole like a narrow path he might yet follow. The season of long rains ended, moon-white clouds fled, revealing skies brilliant as indigo dye. Children arranged mats in Hope Haven's courtyard, eager for the first folktale night, a new tradition Zara envisioned to weave wisdom into young hearts. Lanterns cast warm halos, the air smelled of roasting groundnuts. Zara took the storyteller's stool carved with images of a phoenix. She wore no crown, yet authority glowed from her posture, from the easy way she balanced her baton across her knees. A semicircle of girls and boys leaned forward, eyes wide, some bandaged from recent scrapes already tended by Hope Haven's apprentices. Zara, tonight I tell you a tale called The River That Chose Its Course. Long ago, a healer saved a child from a storm. As she spoke, the story slipped between truth and myth, landslide, broken bones, treacherous husband, new dawn. Children gasped when the river flooded, cheered when the healer rose, silent as graveyard stones when betrayal struck. Yet Zara's tone carried no bitterness, only the calm of one who has crossed fire barefoot and found petals on the other side. Mid-story she paused and invited each child to name a fear. They did: snakes, hunger, abandonment, darkness. She wrote the fears on palm leaves and fed them one by one into a clay brazier. Sparks swirled upward like tiny stars. Zara, soft of fear spoken can become a seed. Burn it, and from its ashes grow courage. At the story's climax she unfurled a final surprise. She rose, without assistance, and walked the semicircle, letting every child touch the faint ridges where steel once pinned her bones. Zara, these lines are maps, proof that journeys can bend but still reach promise. Write your own maps, and let no one steal the pen. The courtyard erupted in applause, even the night insects seemed to chirp louder. Off to the side Mama Iridi wept quietly, joy wrinkling every inch of her face. Watched from a doorway. When Zara returned the gaze he knew the answer to his proposal was ripening like fruit in mid-season, inevitable, but on her timeline. Under the moon, Zara lifted her face to the stars that once witnessed her wedding in the rain. Zara, whisper, see me now, sky. I am not the girl you pitied, I am the woman I chose. Somewhere on a distant road, Tend heard a story in a wayside tavern, a story about a healer who turned pain into paradise, and realized the moonflower he discarded now lit skies he could not reach. Back in Agbon, drums called villagers to dance. Girls twirled in bright wrappers, boys beat rhythms on calabashes, elders clapped in syncopated joy. And amid the swirling song, Zara's laughter rang clear, neither fragile nor forced. It was the laughter of rain-kissed seeds blooming, of rivers carving fresh beds, of a queen at last enthroned in her own unshakable story. The end.